Okay, mabibi na mabwana, karibuni tena to this edition of the One Mic Show, na ni furaha kujiunga nanyi wapenzi wasikilizaji. We're streaming live on Facebook from Kilimanjaro studios outside Washington, D.C., and we are also live on YouTube. Now, later tonight in the social segment, we will have a conversation regarding the Boda Boda menace in Kenya. Will tightening regulations and impounding motorcycles stop the subculture associated with the industry, or was the unfortunate incident a wider reflection of what's happening in our society? So stay tuned for that and more. Na bila kusahau, tapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ OmoshFaya, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Micah jezi nambari 7 mgongoni akituletea habari za michezo. So moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro studios, ni mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawy. Wengi wananiita mteule na kwetu mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui na sibagui. Karibuni tena.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, this hour in news and politics, we interview nutritionist and dietitian Anita Gathogo. Anita will be talking to us about the impact of foods we eat on our well-being. She'll also be talking about daily dietary habits that might slowly be killing us. So stay tuned for that and more. Bila kusahau, Micah na DJ OmoshFaya. And I'm your politics anchor, Ali Badawy. It's Friday, the 11th of March, 2022, and we're coming to you live from Kilimanjaro studios outside Washington, D.C. Please remember to subscribe to our One Mic Show, our YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show. On panel with me tonight is Mr. One Mic Kamakawa. We have resident DJ OmoshFaya. Ruth Kilungu is also in studio tonight. And not forgetting our sports anchor, Micah, who will also be joining us. Our super producer is none other than Mubelwa Bandio. And without much further ado, we're going to get started right away tonight because we have a lot to cover on the show. Now, the last 2 years during the COVID pandemic, we witnessed a lot of, or rather, a lot of us were experiencing a shift in eating habits thanks to working from home. Now, this unexpected shift led to changes that were both physical and mental, and in some cases, psychological and emotional. Now, to help us understand better the impact of foods we eat on our well-being is registered dietitian and nutritionist, Miss Anita Gathogo. Now, Anita has over 20 years of experience in the field of nutrition, and she is also the founder of Dietetics, and we're going to practice that word, Dietetics practice, that's known as Nourishing Nutritionals. Now, Anita graduated from Morgan State University with a Bachelor of Science in Food and Nutrition. She also holds a master's degree in human nutrition from the University of Bridgeport. Now, Anita, welcome to the One Mic Show. Karibu sana. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to get started right away with you. And just to get us started, Anita, you have a very interesting story because of your background. Your love for food science started when you were a little girl. Now, I want you to briefly talk to us and tell us at what point you decided that this was going to be your direction, career-wise, Anita.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me. And I couldn't start this without doing the traditional knock. Hello, hello. Nanisikia mheshimiwa 1 2 3 mic check. If I don't do that, then there's no need of being here. So mic check. Anyway, thank you so much for having me here. We'll start by saying March is National Nutrition Month. So we are talking about nutrition across America, across the world. And the theme actually this year is diversity, giving everybody a seat at the table. So my food background upbringing started as an African being brought up in a small town, Nyeri, oldest daughter. Without saying, you have to learn some sort of food thing, learn how to cook for everybody else, and learn how to manage that. So that's kind of where that started. But I was always a foodie. I always liked to cook, always knew I was going to end up doing something with food, didn't really know. I remember as I was getting ready for this, I remember thinking in high school, if you remember, when we used to pick careers or fill out those papers for KCP, you'd say where you kind of wanted to be. So my first choice was food technology, the University of Nairobi. And now when I look back, it was actually nutrition and dietetics, what I am doing here. The other main reason for me doing nutrition and dietetics, I only needed to do one math class. That's all. never mind the biology, the chemistry, that I can handle, but the math was one class. And when I was here, it was a 4-credit class. And I have to give credit to my sister who is behind me, because without her, I would still be trying to get out of that 4-credit class. But that's another story, another show, whole thing. So coming in here, you lot was actually laughing and saying, gosh, I've been here for so long. When Clinton was president, that's when I first got here. So I don't think I knew what I was doing. And all I knew is I was going to Copin. If you've ever been to Copin, you know what I am talking about. It used to be called
yes.
Copin.
Copin College.
Copin
Then, State College, yes.
After a week or so, you learn it's actually not Copin, it's Capin.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that accent.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
So that's where I started my journey. Then I ended up at the community college doing an associate, and then on to Morgan and, doing the my food and nutrition degree there. But there's one thing to be a dietitian. You have to do 900 hours of an internship, unpaid. It's what helps you sit the registration exam for dietitians, and then you can practice dietetics. So in Maryland, to be a dietitian nutritionist, you have to be licensed. To be licensed, you have to sit the national exam. So each state is different, but that's the setup for Maryland. So sit the exam, get your nutrition license, and then you can practice dietetics. What do why would I do this? Why did I choose this? One of the things with dietetics, it's so broad. You can do many things. You can head into the food industry if that's where you want to be. You can go into what I do, which is clinical. You can teach, you can go into research, you can go into community. So there's a lot of things to do with dietetics, nutrition and dietetics. I encourage anyone out there, especially if you look anything like me, kind of sort of speak like me, or your parents look like me and speak like me, to go into it. The field is wide open. And if you're like me, don't like math other than one class, you're in good hands. And I'm always here to help you walk that path and get your credentials, and then you move on.
Okay, now when you talk about like nutrition and dietetics, what exactly does this practice look like? Because a lot of people know about like people who recommend certain diets and people who recommend certain foods, but what does a dietitian do different from what people generally know?
So I think there's a misconception that either dietitians come in and tell you throw away all your food and only eat lettuce, carrots, and dressing that does not taste good. Actually, that's what the misconception is. Or we look at you and we point a finger and say, lose weight or else. And those are like the end of it all. We come in, we're looking at what have you been eating, what has caused you, or is the reason that you're here today, what is your ailment, what can we do with the food that you're eating to help you with your ailment, or to help you feel better, or just to maintain your health, really, to also help reverse some of the conditions that might be going on. That's what we do. We are the link between what your doctor is giving you, all those prescriptions, some of the names you can pronounce, I can pronounce, and then when you leave the doctor's office, when you go home, what you're supposed to eat and drink, so that your medicine and what you're eating and drinking kind of work pretty much hand in hand. Think of it as you have a car and you only have maybe 2 front tires, 2 front wheels, and you're not going anywhere with that car until you get the back ones up, running and going. We kind of help you put the back ones on and get your car moving. Now, and there's no one size fits all for this. It's all very broad. It's all very, it's broad. You have to, one thing might start working for you today and then down the road it doesn't. And so you have to keep tweaking and working things up so that they really suit you. There is a guideline of do this, do that, but everybody cannot fit in this particular box and you have to find your own path. So I come in, I help you find that path and kind of, say, well, or you come to me and say, what you said did not work. I like to try something else and see what happens from there. So that's kind of what I do, how I piece all those pieces together. And then I'm looking much, much deeper into your medications, the side effects. What are you doing at home? What else is going on outside of what you're eating? What are all those other stressors that could be causing you to be even to cause your skin to be dark, have rashes, break out. Why are you constipated? Why are you having diarrhea that is unexplained? And we spend time, look deeply into that, and then we get you pretty much up on your feet and going.
Okay, all right. Now, the question about magical diets. There's certain magical diets that we've heard about. South Beach, keto, Weight Watchers, and people talk about them like you stay on this diet, you're gonna be okay. What do you have to say about these diets?
So, everybody can swear by any of those diets that you've mentioned. They can swear by South Beach, Keto, Atkins, Weight Watchers, name it. And I always feel like if something can get you started on this, if you're, let's say, wanting to lose weight, maybe you want to keep your diabetes better controlled. And if that can get you started going, then, I guess that's a good place to start. The bottom line is it has to be sustainable. You've got to be able to do it without feeling like today is you have a pass from jail. Like today I'm going to a birthday party where somebody signed my pass so that I can eat whatever is at the party. Because in general, we're supposed to enjoy food. Food is what, brings us together. Even if you look in our community, in the African community, whether here, back home, food brings us together. We're supposed to enjoy it. Food is supposed to be made by somebody who has, or, who makes it with a lot of love so that as you eat the food, you can actually taste it. And that's how it nourishes you. And then when it nourishes you, that's what you put out. So those diets, anybody can swear by them. I feel like they can get you started. The bottom line is they have to be sustainable, and you shouldn't feel like every time you're out and about, you need a pass to go and eat or drink whatever you want to.
Okay, all right. And also very important to note is that Anita is also a fitness coach. Now, it has been said that your body weight is 80% of what you eat and only 20% physical activity. I want to bring in, like the rest of the panel into the conversation because, we've been told, exercise, or rather, where does exercise fit in with nutrition? Like when it comes to the issue, because the issue of weight is what people mostly talk about. And, like with weight, there's a lot of people talk a lot about working out, going to the gym, blah, blah, blah. But 80%, it is said that 80% is diet. First of all, how true is this? And where does, all this fit in with nutrition?
It is true. 80% diet, 20% exercise. Now, before you get hung up about exercise and everything, our bodies are actually made to move. So we should be moving them. And the more you can keep your body moving, then the more your body moves. And your body is going to read that, and that's what it's going to put out. Bottom line, if you are consuming more than you're putting out, then your body is going to start storing it because that's the way it's wired. It's just wired to start storing it. And so the minute you see yourself gaining 1, 2, 3, 4 pounds, that's not what you want to do. You've got to pay attention to that, and you've got to go back and look into your diet. Sometimes people will say, I'm not eating this, I'm not eating that. But it could be something you've been eating a long time, has caused inflammation in your body. And when you're eating these foods, your body is reading it differently. And instead of using it for what you intended to be, it's just getting stored. So you have to be careful what you're eating, because whatever you eat and put in your body, that's what it's going to put out. Now, as far as the exercise, you're exercising, you're moving, and that's really like a good bank for your movement. And you'll be able to, it's so much easier to start exercising or doing some sort of physical activity. And it doesn't have to be, so hard that you're hurting yourself, or so hard, or you're lifting like the heaviest weights. You really just need to move your body enough that you're not hurting yourself. Number one, that is very important. And especially as you get older, your recovery is going to be harder. So you're moving yourself so that you keep moving it, and you are able to move even as you get older, because if you start this as you're older, it's going to be so much harder.
Okay, all right. I want to remind the listeners that you're tuned into the Politics Hour of the One Mic Show. and we're talking to dietitian and nutritionist Miss Anita Gathogo. Anita is talking about the relationship between dieting and exercise on your overall well-being. Now, for more details on Anita's dietetics practice, please visit Nourishing Nutritionals with an S, that's nourishingnutritionals.com. Now, later in the hour, we will talk about foods that we eat daily that could be slowly killing us. So stay tuned for that. Then please remember to share our live stream and like our Facebook page. We are also active on Instagram and YouTube, so please follow, subscribe, and keep spreading the word. But before we continue, Uno, please tell us what we're going to be talking about later in the social segment.
So in the social segment, I mean, most people have actually watched the video of what happened to the lady, and then there was the Boda Boda, whatever the Boda Boda guys did, and then there has been a crackdown. So I think we are going to analyze it from the various stories and various angles that have been presented to us, including now the resultant being a crackdown, but probably that might not even help, even if you do a crackdown, because sometimes, our memories are like a goldfish. We remember for like 2 seconds and then we move on to the next. But that will be coming up in the social segment.
Yeah, and I think, Uno, what do you think? Because I think there's a couple of people who are complaining that they're not getting the live stream.
Okay.
Do you think we should do a recap and restart it again? There's an issue with the live stream. We are the only ones who can get it. A lot of people outside are not able to access it.
So yes, we can do a recap. I'll just have to restart.
Okay.
The stream.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're gonna cut it and then we're gonna restart it
for
again.
Facebook, but I think YouTube is still popping.
Okay.
Yes, because we didn't do anything with YouTube, just Facebook.
Okay. So do you want to restart the whole thing, including YouTube, or?
No, I'll just restart Facebook first.
Okay. All right.
Yes. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Kani hapo tu.
Live from Kilimanjaro studio, This is the One Mic Show, the only show that discusses serious things in a funny way and funny things in a serious way. Live from Kilimanjaro studio, this is the One Mic Show, the only show that discusses serious things in a funny way and funny things in a serious way.
All right. Thank you so much, Mabibi na Mabwana. We apologize, some technical glitch, technical hitches, but we are back. This hour in news this hour in news and politics, we are interviewing nutritionist and dietitian Anita Gathogo. We will be talking, or rather, Anita will be talking to us about the impact of foods we eat on our well-being. She will also be talking about the daily dietary habits that might be slowly killing us, so stay tuned for that. I'm your news and politics anchor, Ali Badawy. It's Friday, the 11th of March, 2022, and we're coming to you live from Kilimanjaro studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to subscribe to our One Mic Show YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show. On panel with me tonight is Mr. One Micah Makawa. We have our resident DJ OmoshFaya. Ruth Kilungu is also in studio, and not forgetting our sports anchor, Micah, who will be joining us later. Our super producer tonight is none other than Mubelwa Bandio. And without much further ado, we're going to get started. Now, for the last 2 years during the COVID pandemic, we witnessed, we saw a shift in eating habits between people thanks to working from home. Now, this unexpected shift led to changes that were both physical, mental, and in some cases, psychological and emotional. Now, to understand better the impact of foods we eat on our well-being is registered dietitian and nutritionist, Ms. Anita Gathogo. Now, Anita has over 20 years of experience in the field of nutrition, and she is also the founder of dietetics practice called Nourishing Nutritionals. Now, Anita graduated from Morgan State University with a Bachelor of Science in Food and Nutrition. She also holds a master's degree in human nutrition from the University of Bridgeport. Now, Anita, welcome again to the One Mic Show.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, so sorry, we're getting started again. We had a technical issue. We apologize, to the listeners. But Anita, to get us started, you have a very interesting background. Your love for food science started as a little girl. Now, briefly tell us at what point you decided that this was your direction career-wise. Anita.
All right. So thank you again, One Mike Show, for having me here. I completely appreciate being here. I would say that it is National Nutrition Month, so I'm here on, trying to send the message of nutrition. And the theme this year is, cultural diversity, giving everybody a seat at the table. So for anyone that might think there is something wrong with the food that you eat, there is absolutely nothing wrong. Now, I almost forgot. We have to do mic check, mic check, mic check. How can you have the mic and not do a mic check? So that's my mic check for now. And then we'll move on and see, and then we'll talk about nutrition, food, dietetics, and everything. So I was, by virtue of being an oldest daughter, girl, you have to learn how to cook. You have to learn how to cook for the entire family and everybody, the neighbors and whoever. So I learned how to cook long time ago. As I got older, I knew my path was always going to be in food. And in Kenya, opportunities sometimes are limited, or sometimes the food service industry or the hospitality industry is not always associated with it seems like if you get into hospitality, you're not on the right path. That's not where you should be. So there's always some hesitation anyway. But I remember in high school when you had to fill out your little form there to say what you wanted to do in the university or beyond. I remember doing food technology, and it turns out that food technology in 254 is food, nutrition, and dietetics here. So, like was introduced, I really actually started my schooling in U.S. at what I thought was carping state, and then I learned a few weeks into it that it is actually carping, right, Muturi?
It's carping.
Yeah,
Get it right. Get it right.
Yeah.
Carping.
And for those of you who are wondering what is that,
COPPIN, carping.
and it's now a state university.
Hey, but
Back
tell them.
then, it was a
College.
A community college?
No, please.
Just a college.
Just a
College.
college.
Okay.
One of the
Carping.
best when it comes to nursing.
Yeah,
Check
actually,
yourself.
yes. And that's where anybody who came into the DC metro area, that's where everybody ended up. Anyway, so I made my way into Baltimore City Community College for an associate degree, Morgan State. And then to be a dietitian, you have to do 900 hours of an internship, which was done none other Howard University. Now we all know about Howard University and some of the people it has produced in this wonderful, beautiful America of ours, right? So anyway, I had to sit an exam. In Maryland, you have to be licensed as a dietitian, nutritionist. So that gives you your license. Essentially, in Maryland, you don't have to sit an exam. It's all they want is money, 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 and more money. So that's pretty much my career path. When I was getting ready for this, I told Ali that my entire immigrant journey to being an RD is an entire show by itself, in part because there's not many dietitians who look and speak like me. A lot of times people are misled when they hear the name Anita. They assume she's going to be blonde, blue-eyed, tall, and weighs like 2 pounds and eat leaves and, nothing else. And I'm being, it's real.
That's good. That's good context.
Right, but I haven't given up the foods that I grew up eating. I just eat them sometimes with balance. It depends when, as a woman, you catch up with me. Did you catch up with me at the beginning of the month, the end of the month, the middle of the month, or when I'm tired and I just need to get in bed and sleep? But anyway, we'll get into all that. But before we all get started, let us talk about the most important place where food is cooked, food is prepared, food is made, the kitchen. Jikoni. We all know the kitchen is a battleground for parents with their children, children with children, spouses, roommates, everywhere. Everyone is fighting in that kitchen. Ladies and gentlemen, mabibi na mabwana, there is no need for fighting in the kitchen. Stop. Just take a deep breath. Food is supposed to nourish you. Remember, even if you look back in our culture, food is there for celebration. Even, unfortunately, even during death, there is food. Back then, they used to celebrate with food. Whatever it was, the rains come, food. The cow gives birth, food. The goats get delivered by the other family, food. So let us not make our kitchens a battleground. Let us make it a place where everybody contributes. And with that note, write this down, everybody. Type it down. There's no chores in our kitchen. None. Zero. Zip. They are now called family contributions. Because when you give them such a lovely name and then you give somebody a job to do in the kitchen, which is a family contribution.
Like wash the dishes.
Like wash the dishes.
Yeah.
And we'll talk
I
about
love
washing the
this.
dishes. We'll,
Yeah.
talk,
I
we'll,
love
we'll talk about
that.
washing the dishes.
Boy child
shortly.
is under siege.
Eh? Family contribution. What is your family contribution? Muturi, what's your family contribution?
I grill.
Okay, you grill, and we're kids. Your kids help do this or that. It is family contributions.
I
If you're
eat.
on here, like, right, family contributions.
I eat. Is that a contribution?
That
too?
is a contribution.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Ne-
so everybody has a role. Even your 1-year-old has a role in that kitchen. They can walk pick that cup, either throw it in the dishwasher or throw it in the sink, do something with it, and that is their contribution. And that is how we should sell anything food, diet to all the people around us. Even when your mother-in-law and father-in-law are visiting. Now remember, they've left their culture back home and they're here. Back home, there's the house help or the cook or whoever who does all that. So in Kenya, you don't experience battleground issues in the kitchen with your spouse. But let me tell you, come here, I can write a book. That is another show.
But now talking about a battleground in the kitchen, I'm a bit curious. When it comes to kitchen matters, cooking, food and nutrition, how did you explain this to your parents? I don't know your parents, but we are Kenyans, and we know how parents of our generation, we know their line of thought. Yeah. How did you explain to your parents that you've come to the US and your career is gonna be about
Food.
chakula, kupika, food
I
and
know, and
nutrition?
And not a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer.
Not an engineer.
Or a doctor. Or
Yeah.
well, so I've always lined up in food. So I think my mom who raised me.
Omosh talked about you want to be a cook. Do you hear what he said?
Yeah.
From that far.
But you see, Omosh is
But-
coming from the point
Yeah,
of
from
view
the
of our
pin-
parents.
The parents, the parents,
From the
let me-
parents' point of view, yeah.
Because when
Nutrition is what?
New pishi.
What is nutrition?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Si ni wale watu wa
Cooking.
utalii. Si watu wa utalii
I
hupika
know. You
wote.
see, remember I said the negative connotation with hospitality and the hospitality
You see,
industry.
man, it's coming from that
But
guy.
yeah, but now again, we're coming from our parents' perspective, and I think for our parents, that's what they knew, at their time. So I'm
Afadhali
just
angeenda
curious.
utalii.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, alikuja Amerika kufanya nini? Angeenda utalii.
But you see, but I'm just curious, how you explain this to your parents. Did they know before you left for the US, or did they find out when you got here? At what point did they know that this is what you want to make your career?
I don't even know if my mom exactly knows what I do. She knows I do something to do with nutrition, and I tell people who have like lifestyle diseases what to eat so that they can manage their condition. I think for us with my mom, it was made clear a long time ago. I'm sending you to high school, and then I'll get you started in college. Whatever you do, just make sure when it is all over, you get a job. You get written.
Yeah. Uandikwe kazi.
Uandiko kazi.
Yeah. Written a job.
You do the translation. Wadiko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you do that,
Yeah.
you're good. So that has always been.
Oh, so that gave you freedom.
So it gave me freedom. My
Okay.
mom was always my mom was a school teacher, and she raised us, myself and my two sisters. When back in the days, if you are a single parent, you would be able to spread it to other people. They would just know you, and then they would catch it. So our upbringing was hold your head up high. I'm gonna get you through to high school, and then after that, you're pretty much on your own, and you better not go and let me down out there. But that's changed over. So we didn't have those hindrances of maybe they were there in her. I didn't pick up on it, so I just went on and did my thing that I thought was going to work for me.
Okay.
I think after this interview, she'll know what you do.
I know, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because again, like you talked about, like the stigma that comes with the food industry, and of course with our parents. When we talk about careers like in nutrition and diet, we of course don't expect them to understand, and that's just the reason why.
They don't.
Yeah, that's just the reason why I was curious on where like your parents were with this, and then just bringing back Uno to this conversation, he had talked about when it comes to nutrition, there's these magical diets that are always being sold to us. South Beach, Weight Watchers,
Atkins.
Keto, like
Jenny Craig.
yeah, all this,
Jenny
like,
Craig, you're asking about Weight Watchers.
yeah, the one that I was asking
There's-
about
it
was Weight Watchers. Yeah,
Boss, there's so many.
Are they the ones of the portion is mkono?
I know they
Yes,
sell
that one.
Yeah,
I
they
think-
sell food in boxes in the grocery stores.
Yeah, portion
Yeah.
waga ni mkono.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
Noom.
yeah,
There's,
it's
there's,
more
there's a
than
new one
Koraga.
called Noom.
There's no.
No.
Yeah.
So
And they're giving them shout outs by the way. I don't
yeah,
know. Okay.
so what's your opinion of this? Or what's your professional view of these so-called like magical diets that if you eat, automatically you're going to South Beach?
Okay. So this is my thought on it. Whatever you're doing has to be sustainable. It has to feel like something you don't need anybody to sign off so you can go and do otherwise. So if you're on a liquid diet or a South Beach or Weight Watchers or anything, and you come to a party, especially in the African setting, there's a lot of food. They're supposed to be enjoyed. You're having your good, and then all of a sudden you're trying to wonder, fried plantain, where on my points or it shouldn't be. If you want to follow it and it's gotten you started and it's working, that's fine. But when you interact, because in general, food is to be eaten with other people. That's why the kitchen is so important, because it's where you bring your families together. Whatever is the definition of family, it doesn't have to be, the traditional mom, dad. It could be whatever works for you or whatever you consider your family. So as you go out to wherever you're going, the bottom line, you should not feel like you're in jail with food.
You should not be struggling.
You should not be struggling. It should come easily. Now, if Weight Watchers is what gets you started, gets you on that path, and then you slowly change your mindset to where you don't have to think, you don't have to count, write, or not go to a party or a baby shower, or just go and not eat, then that's not right, because food is not supposed to be like that. Food is supposed to be enjoyed. You're supposed to sometimes just eat mindlessly and have a good time with it, but at the same time maintain your health and your wellness and not get yourself on the deep end because of food, which could be either way. You can get into the eating disorders where you're not eating and you're under 100 pounds, or you could go onto the other side where we're now talking about your 1,000-pound life, and that's not what food is all about.
To provide context, when you talk about, let's look at a Kenyan bash, Kenyan setting. Baby, she mentioned a baby shower, whatever function. Badawy, chapo. Of course, there's going to be fruit salad, and depending from what community you are, you might find mokimo, ugali, fish,
Sukuma,
sukuma wiki,
Sauces.
chai, na
ushuru,
ushuru, jahes,
Muturi. It depends. Yeah. It
Sweet
depends.
potatoes.
sura, some yam chom.
Some jam, but but regular bashes, those ones are special. Ile wanaume wanakulia pale. Well, I mean, everyone, the grilled meat is sour, but you're looking at those foods, and rightfully so, like she said, some people come and let me do spinach, cabbage, na nyama.
So and that's what I'm saying about Weight Watchers. What Jenny Craig, whatever you pick, if that's what you're following and they're telling you eat pasta, eat this, but they're not including the foods that you have mentioned, you should be able to come to the bash, the baby shower, the whatever shower, and be able to pick through that and enjoy in your community, right? Because then when you go into another community that is not African, maybe they're Italian or wherever it may be their ethnic
French,
background,
Nigerian.
Ukrainian.
and you go there, you're supposed to be able to
Russian.
serve yourself that food and enjoy it. And that is the bottom line of food. You should never feel like this is jail. And the only time you really shouldn't be eating it is if you're allergic to it. If you know it, if I eat mandazi and chapati, that gluten is not good for you, it makes me sick, then don't eat it, by all means.
Yeah.
But if you can, I see no reason why you shouldn't, because it should be balanced and you shouldn't feel like you're in jail.
So when it comes to the foods, these African foods that people really like ugali, chapati,
Chapati.
like nyama choma, mtura,
Pilau.
sausages, you know, like, and those are very common foods, you know, like in African homes, you know, in Kenyan homes specifically, and Kenyan events.
Waruz. Did
Yeah.
you say waruz?
By the way,
Yeah.
hey,
Yes,
Jesus.
yes.
We forgot to Aruz.
I know
How can you forget
waruz.
waruz? They
Waruz,
are
I
put-
know,
They
I
are
know.
put in everything.
Yes, they're put in everything. Waruz, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, yeah. From
well.
waruz
Sorry,
from
sorry,
from
Shimian.
Nyandarua County, the ones that I think KFC is gonna start buying.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So like there's certain foods that lately they've been kind of, you know, like marginalized or castigated by the dieting community. I don't even know whether there's such a community.
Like the
But-
carbs.
Yeah,
So
the
like if you're
carbs,
doing
yeah,
keto,
those ones.
yeah.
those
all day.
Yeah.
If it's not, I always say if you can't sustain it or it's not sustainable, it really isn't good for you. And there's no one food that we can say it's going to give you all of the nutrients that you need. You need to vary your food because whatever nutrient you're getting from food A, B, C, and D, they work together to leave you healthy and well. So even you forgot, it depends on where you come, they'll call it cassava,
Mhogo.
domas.
Doma,
Yeah.
Goashe,
Yeah.
arrowroots.
There's, they'll say, oh, the high
Yucca.
glycemic index, they're this, they're that. But there's a way to make that taro, depending on where you come from, make it so that it's healthy for you and that you enjoy it. And actually now it is least processed, and we probably need to start going back to eating those squashes and donuts in the morning and forget about bread and cereal because it's so manufactured.
No more Weetabix.
There's really no more Weetabix.
Aye.
There's no nutrient in it, so that when you just eat it, it's just sugar. Your body takes it. If you all remember biology digestion 101,
Yeah.
you start digestion of carbs in your mouth. It hits you. It's like you look at it. Some foods now, at my age, I look at them, I gain like 10 pounds. So I don't even look at them because that's how they react to your body.
So talk to us about those I want to
Yes.
call them killer foods because I want to sensationalize it. I want to call them killer foods. So talk to us about those killer foods that we should avoid.
But-
you of course you've already mentioned Weetabix.
Yeah.
Where I live,
you know,
All right, I'm gonna get.
You are trying not
the
to go by
cereal
those things.
industry is going to come after me for this one.
That's
But
fine.
That's okay, don't worry, we're
cereal
ready for them.
Is so empty. It is so empty. It has no nutrition.
Cornflakes.
Half of us cannot even
Magwaga.
tolerate dairy because cereal was given to be mixed up with dairy so that it could have nutrition value. The minute you eat cereal, it's sugar. It starts to get digested. You are not doing anything to work it out. It just gets
Even when you
stored.
add raisins.
Even when you add raisins, add
It's
dry
more
goods.
It's like putting
Sugar.
lipstick
It's
on a
more
pig.
sugar.
Yeah,
Sio ni
it's more
sukari.
sugar.
More sugar.
Wait a minute. So raisins are also
hiyo ni
Sugar.
sukari bwana.
raisins are also
It's
not
Yeah,
good.
and you can't weka
Sugar.
dates wewe.
So wait, so raisins are also not good.
I'm not gonna say they are not good. You have to balance.
You have to balance.
Yeah.
Keyword is balance.
So you can
so-
balance 2 raisins on the Weetabix.
So you can balance 2 raisins on the Weetabix. Yes.
Okay, so you talked about the cereals, you know, like those empty foods. I think it's important to know
Yes.
them
Yeah.
because people
No,
are
empty
feeding their
food.
families.
If at this point you haven't started giving your children cereal, please do not. And if you can get away from it, don't. Now, I talk as a mom of 2 girls, 11 and 5. So I know that sometimes you want them to eat, be able to have access to something that they can easily eat, they can easily pour for themselves, and out the door. But when it's all said and done, whatever you teach them as young, when they're coming up, that's what they learn and that's what they practice.
And you know, you've taken us ahead in this conversation, and let's just talk about children because children, that's a very emotional aspect, you know, when you talk about people's children because I feel like kids are usually left out in the conversation regarding diets. And this is a stage in their lifetime where, you know, where they start forming, you know, like dietary habits that actually last for a lifetime.
You're about to get us started.
Yes. So there's certain happy foods, and there's some that you've already mentioned that parents, especially in the US, like giving their kids to calm them down. You talked about cereals, chicken nuggets,
Chicken nuggets.
Hiyo
Soda.
fries,
hiyo hata mimi najua ni mbaya.
easy sugary drinks. These ones that
Because
come
they're
in
quick
boxes,
and
Capri
easy.
Sun.
Capri haina sukari, my
yeah,
friend. Haina
yeah.
sukari.
No,
Yes.
ngoja.
Capri haina sukari.
Chill out,
Haina boss. Hiyo
Almost
Go ahead.
just chill out.
Go
Just
ahead.
chill out. So there's these certain foods, you know, like even in a lot of places you go and you find these kiddie menus with a lot of these foods that that kids happen to like. I want you to talk to us about how you can start grooming your children with good dietary habits at a very early stage, because these are habits that they're gonna keep for
For a while.
for probably for the rest of their
for the
lives.
rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'll preface and say this, that people are very sensitive about their children and what they're giving, what they can do with them. Don't tell them, don't mention, don't do anything. But I'll say this, just give me a minute and listen. Remember, I started with saying, let us not make the kitchen a battleground. Let us make it a place where everybody has a good time when they are in there. Now, you are the gold standard for your children. I tell me anyone who has been in the store and found a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old shopping. Not. We go and shop for them the cereal because it's convenient for us. But we forget that we have this thing in the kitchen, most especially in the US, that is called a refrigerator that you can use. And there should not be any breakfast, like breakfast is cereal and milk in the morning. Breakfast can be anything. It can be a bowl of nice that chicken soup with some vegetables and, for your children in
Or
the morning.
uji.
Actually, if you can get them to start on that, they'll be good the rest of the day or most of the day. Okay? But as parents, we have to do it. We teach them that. And if that's all you teach them, then that's all you know. Now, the chicken nuggets and hot dogs and sausages and Capri Sun, they're already prepared. They're made so that
Mac and cheese.
they appeal to our taste buds, our kids' taste buds. Then we see that they're eating them. There's no battle with eating the chicken nuggets and sausages. I mean, like when I make sausages, it's not like I don't, but on those mornings, my morning is smooth. Everybody's happy to eat the sausages. Everybody's out the door like I would want them. But my kids never went buying the sausages. I did. I introduced them to the sausages. And then you get into the, why aren't we having sausages anymore? And then, you get away with it for a few weeks. And then finally you're like, you know what? Yeah, breakfast sausages every morning. This works for me, the adult. But you always have to backtrack a little bit and teach your children to eat well, because then once they know the path of preparing a food, that's what they grow up knowing, and those are the habits that they carry on with them. And for children, believe me, been there, done that. We've dealt with food allergies where you couldn't even, make something like eggs or anything in the house because somebody is allergic to it. So I talk about foods and kids with experience, having to pick for my daughter her foods that she can eat, that she can easily digest, that are good for her. So I completely understand how feeding our children is, difficult, but we're the ones who are driving that bus. We're going to drive it for as long as we can drive it. Because when it gets to the point where they're upstairs, they're ordering Uber Eats and Grubhub, and you're like, who's that at the door? And then you see somebody running to the door, you're done. But I'm telling you, once they know how to prepare foods, eventually they will come back around. But if they don't, once they get out there, they're just going to continue with the Grubhub and whoever hub. And before you know it, we're going to start seeing it in their health outcomes, especially when they're going through their teenage years, with how their skin is treating them, whether they gain weight or they lose weight, and how often they can get it off, how they can be able to even manage themselves through difficult times, because food will also leave you either happy mood. It will take your mood one way or the other.
Yeah.
The foods that our children take to school, they are levels for bullying because our food smells this way. It's called that. It looks like ew.
It's
and
nasty.
It's nasty. It's this. And so they refuse to eat our food and say, I'm not taking githeri or gali to school, because they're the kids who will laugh at me or will say something bad. And you don't want that to happen to your kid. Then you start going down the path of pizza and chicken nuggets and whatever. And then we have a major problem.
And then Steve Batty here has a comment. It says, first of all, DJ Tucha Karibu Sana, he says, no chapo, no life. And then here Steve says, Stephen Batty of Sambaza Podcast says, how do you make African cuisine are sexy enough and present it to the diaspora people as a diet nutritionist? Can we compare them to other diets and then fit in with the other advertised diets as regular meals? I'm gonna let you answer that, and I know Ruth also has a question for you, but I'm gonna let you answer that. But before you answer that, I'm gonna say, like our foods are already very sexy. Like I
They
mean,
are.
for me personally,
Yeah.
like our foods are very sexy. That's why Swahili Village is doing well, even
Exactly.
amongst non-Kenyans,
Yeah.
because our food is
Especially
sexy.
I think-
non-Kenyans.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
also when you're answering when you're chiming in on the foods that we eat and preparing, I think because there's also this thing of the food preparation is one thing, but the food preparation involves, okay, you've got Kilungu, everything, but the oil that is used, because that's another thing that many blogs, dietitians, nutritionists, having perused the interwebs, there's always an argument, avoid vegetable oil, cooking with vegetable oil, canola oil or whatever. Use coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil, in and make that a consistent food oil that you use to prepare foods. And you can tell me, and even in addition to that, spices. There's Royco. There's the one that you don't like.
No, spices.
Royco.
Royco is a spice.
Curry powder. Yeah, Royco. Of course.
Okay.
Is chili cubes, beef chili cubes,
Simbambili.
chicken chili cubes.
Simbambili.
Simbambili, that one has been around for quite a
So
while.
how can we
Kimbo.
cook?
Oh, sorry. Cowboy.
Yeah. So let's first answer about our sexy food. Our food is sexy enough. Remember what I said about the kitchen. Do not make it a battleground. If I'm making mandazi with nobody wants to eat them. Okay? It's that simple. Because we kind of eat like with our emotions. So if I've had a fight with my children, my significant other, and then he puts food there, I'm gonna eat it. Right? It doesn't matter what it is. I don't want to eat it because I'm eating it. It's there's an emotional sense to the eating of the food. So to make your food sexy, it's you just don't make where you're preparing the food a battleground. Okay? You can eat simple boiled bananas that are given to you nicely and you enjoy them. You come to my house and I'm just doing, how long are you gonna be? And then I can give you whatever, chapati, mandazi, and all that stuff. Already the attitude and the air makes the food bad. Our food, there is absolutely nothing wrong with our food. This is what our ancestors ate for years and years. We tried to go into other cultures, manipulate it in a different way, and then it's not good for our bodies. It's not good for our genetics because that's not how we're made. Remember, our genes are not changing, are not moving over every night or, changing over or mutating over. They're really mutating over generations.
Yeah.
Okay? So it could be that my 5 generations back, I still have their genes. And that's why when I look at something like cereal, Weetabix, I gain weight because my gene line is not made for that.
I didn't hear her. I didn't hear her.
I know. So you can't, that's sexy enough. Don't look for it to be, don't see all those little things they put when you go out and have
Garnishing.
garnishing,
Yeah.
or whatever, and think that their food is better than ours. There is nothing wrong with our food. Our food is just perfect. You just have to make it with love, serve it with love, serve it with good emotions, and it is going to nourish your body inside and out.
And that's an interesting point you bring up. There's an event that I attended. It wasn't about food. It was about like culture. And there's someone who asked a question. It was that Swahili. Was it the Swahili Fest? The Swahili event? Yeah. So someone asked a question and asked one of the panelists why we are not highlighting, like the negative aspects, about our culture. And he was given a very good answer. He was told there is no negative culture in this world. So when it comes to food, I think it's the same thing, like sometimes people are conditioned to think that food from this culture is bad, or this kind of food, it's African, it's bad. But, like, I agree with you when you say, like, there's no bad food, Ruth.
I mean, if I can just talk about the food part before I go to my question, is we just need to own and be proud of our food, because that's what we grew up with, that's what we know, and every culture in the world has a unique food structure to
Preach. Preach.
And just own it. And I will say this: if you've not been to Swahili, please come to Swahili. When you're in DC, check into to Swahili. And you'll see a ton of people who come to Swahili are not even Kenyans. They like the food. So, like, let's love our own culture, our own food, and let's teach kids to love their own food. Now, it's gonna be hard at school because, like, you have people with different perspectives about the food, but if you teach your kids to be proud of what who they are and their food, it will be easy. I'm not saying it's an easy conversation, but I'm saying it will be easier as they grow to love the food. Now,
And to jump onto that just for a quick second, is that it's interesting you bring that up. Growing up in school, the kids who carried food, I remember, it always seems were Indians growing up.
Yes.
And they had no shame in their game, coming with their Indian food in those metal containers.
Yeah.
It's like a 3-pack.
Yeah.
One had a stew, one had the rice, then the other one had the
Levels.
what is it called? Their chapos. The
Naan.
naan.
Yeah.
Now one a toa,
Roti.
one a keti, the roti, yes. And they would sit, like, maybe there was one in standard 5, one was in standard 7, another one was in standard 3. And they would come and sit down, they lay out over there, na wametoa hizo masufuria zao, na wanakula.
yeah.
And now Indian has become mainstream. We have food trucks that are Indian. I mean, Indian is even offered. I think it's offered in some school districts. Like, you actually get, like, Indian food, or you'll have like a
curry,
when they,
or
yes,
rice.
a curry or a rice or a chutney or something. It has become mainstream. So I don't see why we cannot make our food mainstream. And actually, that's one of the goals of Kevin of Swahili Village, is to make our food mainstream, so that people don't have a faux pas or a problem paying, a good price for it, like we do for the Brazilian churrascaria and, like other, cuisines that we go eat, Moroccan and so on and so forth. That's why he's pushing that agenda, and it seems to be working. So I don't see why we can't do it. Back to you, Ruth.
Right.
Thank you. So my question is, and this is going to encompass from the kids to the adults. I think one of the biggest connotation we have is our food is carb heavy. We have a lot of carbs in our food. And that, because as Black people, we are prone to some lifestyle diseases. And then how do we balance that? Because I think that's where we miss the boat. Like, okay, love the food, but then when I pile up my plate, I have chapati, pilau, warus,
Ugali.
and then the rest of the things. But that is such a heavy carb food, and I do not want to say don't eat carbs. Although I tried not eating carbs for 1 week, by the end of the week I ate everything on my way. So I know that it's a hard, like, your bodies are not supposed to work without carbs, So, like, how do we balance that?
Okay. So if we think about our African culture, first of all, rice is an introduced food to us. Okay. In general, we'll go and we'll eat certain, the roast, the meat there, and then there'll be some vegetable of some sort. Sometimes our peoples are very heavy on rice and warus.
Kamoshere.
Like warus. And those are borrowed foods. And now, as we are learning that they're carb heavy, that's why we're saying that the theme really this year is to give every culture a seat at the table. So we borrow the Indian spices, our foods, especially the Kenyan our foods are like flat. They are not spicy. They are not anything. They don't have too much aroma. They're just like flat. So we borrow the Indian spices
but I have something to say about that, but I'll let you finish first.
Right, the Swahili
snap.
spices.
yeah, the so-called Swahili spices. But even as much as you're calling them spices, they are plants that grow somewhere, and you're just adding them to enhance either your food, to reduce inflammation, to do that. So if you let's look in Raiko, we'll find out what is in Raiko besides cornstarch and some salt. And we really should, in reality, nobody should be doing Royco in this day and age. And the people who make Royco, please don't come for anything from me.
Hiya.
I have 2 girls. That's all you're gonna get.
Hiya. Don't speak too loudly about Royco. Kuna watu wengine who live on that theme.
I
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
So we should be aware, learn, because the world has now opened up, and now we can learn about some of these foods that we tend to lean to, and we add the vegetables in there. Probably give up the rice and warus and make them 2 separate dishes instead of one. That is a recipe for heartburn, as far as I'm concerned. And that's how we borrow from everybody else that's at the table. The world has opened up. There's no reason to be, stuck too much in your ways, but also know that those foods that your ancestors were eating, there was nothing, or there is nothing wrong with them. You can build them up and make them tastier and better. And it will help them. And also for our children, we teach them to hold their head up high when they go to school. Like you're saying, the Indians used to just eat our food. So if my daughter takes ugali and skumawiki and nyama to school, that's okay. She should be just explain. I teach my children, just explain what it is, what food group is each food, and just eat it. There's nothing wrong with it. That's what you eat. That's what we eat, and that's okay.
Now
So
I
let-
think also, in Kenya, for example, when we come to talk about Kenyan foods, I think there's also, like a certain misconception that certain foods are not Kenyan. When you look at coastal cuisine, for example, a lot of people like associating it with the Indian side
Right.
and the Arab side. What people don't talk about is that those Indians and Arabs also borrowed from what they found there.
What they brought, yeah.
Remember, spices, for example, which are associated with India, they'd been growing in the island of Zanzibar for a very long time. And people along the coast have been eating spices for centuries.
For centuries,
Yeah. So there's that aspect of like this. Whenever people see this food, whenever people see this good Kenyan food, for example, like a samosa, for example, 90% of the samosa that we have, that samosa that we really love in Kenya, 90% of it is African. The only part, if you go to an Indian restaurant and eat a samosa, you will not get that samosa that we eat in Kenya. Like it will most likely be, there'll be viazi in it. The
Peas.
wrap will be very thick.
Dengu.
Peas. So that samosa that we have, like that's
only samosa.
yes. So that's the African
Good.
side of the. So a lot of these foods, like that are sometimes associated with the Middle East and with the Indian subcontinent, they actually picked up some stuff, like when they were coming, like along the way. So I think it's important to point that out. The other thing with for example, some of the culture that I come from, there's certain foods that people are and people are not gonna eat. Like however healthy they look, however nice they are. I come from a culture where food is cooked with a lot of passion. It comes from the heart. Hata kama ni maharagwe, lazima maharagwe iwe imepikwa in such a way that ukiila usisikie ni kama tu maharagwe imechemshwa. There's a lot of it's hard to describe it, but there's a lot of soul that comes with
food, yes.
with the food that we eat, and there's a lot of diversity, like with our cuisine, and in my own personal experience, like a lot of people who like talk about like diets and foods that you should eat are not very accommodative, and that's the reason why people sometimes don't like going to them. They're not very accommodative to this richness that there is. Like for example, like telling people in Pwani not to eat biryani, and biryani of course is rice heavy. Like it's rice heavy, but telling them not to eat biryani, you're losing them immediately. And a couple of comments are coming in here. Uno, read some of the comments that are coming.
So I think I think you read that one. Tucha says, by the way, Tucha, Ebu manage my challenges. Kuja hapa studio. He says, we need some carbs. We can't eliminate it entirely, I don't think. You can comment on that. Sleo Odor, I think in talking with Steve Batty says, spinach is the least liked food for my toddler. When you're unaendesha basi, by the way, Sle, and I think you're the one, you're driving the bus. So I think there's a way you can.
Our question before was, what's the best way to get toddlers to eat vegetables?
Okay. Because we had a problem with that. And then here there's
Unamchuna?
unamchuna. Is there an argument? Is there such an argument like natural carbs versus manufactured carbs?
Yes.
That's a very good question.
That's a good question. Let's talk about the toddler.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
And
all,
I'll comment on the toddler.
Yeah,
speaking
it's
from
all
experience.
presentation and how you on the day that they first meet spinach. How do you present it? How do you continue to push it if you really feel that they need to be eating it? Okay. Now, you can come, and if they get to the point where they don't like that, I don't like that. They come and say, come and help me cook it so that I see how you cook and we're going to eat what you cook. Just put them there, let them help you, and try and sell it that way. Okay? Or you can just leave it alone for a while, bring it back in differently. But in that case, because remember, these toddlers are whole human beings and they are completely capable of making bad decisions, you have to sell it to them to come and help you cook. Come help them participate. Pick something. Try something. How about if we mix it with something? I know when my second child doesn't like vegetables. There's a bee there. I don't know why. I always just call them vegetables. I get her to help me cook. And then when she cooks, we completely buy it. She helped us make green beans or spinach or whatever it was. And that's how you have to sell it like that. Now you're probably saying, well, I'm working, I'm running, I'm the only person who is cooking and I'm doing this. But this is where we all, as much as we like to go and work and do all this, we really have to take a step back.
Yes.
Because this is a long process. You know, you don't want your kid, then what happens is you battle them, you make your kitchen a battleground, and then you just give up and you throw the chicken nuggets on and you throw in something that you really have no business throwing. And then that you go to the toddler and they say, oh, your baby is at 95 percentile. Then now you're stressed. My kid is overweight. And in general, children should not be put on diets to lose weight. They're really supposed to grow into that weight. You really should not, until they're adults, they're supposed to be allowed to go into that weight.
Repeat that again.
Okay. Children should not go on diets. If they're overweight, okay, and you have to determine, this is a very sensitive topic because they're children.
It is,
You're the
yeah.
one who's going to determine that, yeah, they're getting on the heavier side. I'm not going to tell you. They should not be put on a diet to lose weight. You should go back to basics, go back to the fruits, the vegetables, all those things that you know, and try and redo this. Try to get buy-in from your kids and to believe that if you eat this, it's good for you over the long term, and your children should grow into their weight. Physical activity, those electronics, we've got to come up with a way to get our children off electronics, mine included. But, and that is another entire discussion that we can have here.
You can put it outside, maybe then.
But then it's gonna be one of our topics. You know, somebody wanted to talk about tech files, like how we have become so and enveloped by tech.
Tech heavy?
Yes.
Tech heavy, yeah. So we really, it's a lot of work to work on our children who are American born, but we're also asking them to carry the burden of our Africanness.
Yeah, we never think about it that way.
Okay, so we're asking them to like my domas, my warus, my whatever.
More.
But remember, they're spending
Which is
a
very tasty.
huge amount of time in school and they're getting indoctrinated into that, whatever it is. And then when they come home, they have to wear their African hat, their Kikuyu hat, their whatever hat, and speak our language, eat our food, blah, blah, blah. Can you
It's a
imagine
lot.
all that?
It's a lot.
That's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And so you really have to grab them when they're really, really young and just kind of, really put in now versus later. So that's my thing with the toddler. You really have to get that toddler to buy into whatever you're doing. If they have to come and cook with you, serve their food, taste it, and don't make it a battleground. Just move on. If they don't want to, just find them the next vegetable that they like and keep that.
So kiboko is not the right answer.
Oh my
'cause,
goodness.
no, I'm just saying, kwa sababu kwetu ilikuwa kiboko or you go lala, then the next day you come back and you eat the same food.
Right. And our parents,
you finish.
our parents did not know better. We did not know better. And it worked at that
did.
time.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Work at that
There were
time.
no electronics exposures and all that stuff. And, your kids, you say, remember when our parents would say, when I come, I want to find the whole house burnt down. Now try and say that to my kids, like, Mommy, why would you want the house burnt? Can you imagine you saying that to your
Yeah,
mother?
questioning your parents.
Yeah?
Oh.
Jaribu one. Just try.
Yeah.
Try. Like even today, I would never even, try. So we're
at this
navigating
age.
really sticky waters because we're immigrants in this country and we're still carrying also the burden of our parents. Okay. And then we're trying to sideline some of it to our kids. And then the whole thing just get mixed up. And then food becomes the thing that we take this way or that way. And then we end up with diabetes, hypertension, blah, 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 blah. And we're not owning up to it. But when you look at it, it's all in all this whole mix of it.
Now, I think I'm going to ask a question and then I think she will ask. But I wanted you to, if you can, address the cooking oil. The vegetable oil, canola, whatever, vis-a-vis whatever, because
Mazola.
mazolas, junini.
Lakini mazola
Think about that. But
Kwanza na
Ruth,
chifo.
Ruth,
Ai.
I think you are triggered by the comment about
Diabetes,
yes.
hypertension, because that is it's food driven.
Yes.
Some of
Yeah.
these diseases we
Yes.
have, they're food,
Yes.
and we are prone to, the thing is we need to remember, as Black people, we are prone to these diseases, so we need to be even more cautious about what we eat. And I want us to spend time on that because
Yeah.
it's a big issue
It is
in
a
the
big issue.
community. But first, and let's address the cooking
The
oil.
mazola and the what?
cooking oil, because ideally, I think the genesis of food is how you start preparing.
Right.
Yeah.
And you start preparing it by unakata vitunguu, unaeka kwa oil. Which, that oil, hiyo maguta.
Yeah.
Haya, tuende.
Vegetable oil.
Okay.
Hiyo maguta.
Sioni
No.
veggies.
Sijui inflammation.
Sioni
sijui
veggies
nini.
imeingia
Yeah,
kwa.
kwanza in fact when you wake up palm oil is even heavier and better.
Okay.
Can
See, all
give
this
her-
is vegetable
can
oil.
you give her time to answer?
Sorry.
So the question or the discussion of oil comes in, and why we're always posting and saying, don't use this, use that, and doing all this level of whateverness. So all these oils are corn oils, they're vegetable oils, they're whatever oils. In general, your vegetables and your corns they have oil, but we have to really extract it. We have to manufacture it. We have to manufacture it and make it palatable. In the process, we get away from making this food good for human beings to consume, digest, and utilize. Okay? We change the chemical. Let's all go back to Chemistry 101. We change those chemical bonds on the food, but we don't change the chemical bonds in our body to recognize and attach and treat that food or oil so that when we consume it, it does what it's supposed to do and it puts out what it's supposed to put out. So that's what happens with all these manufacture. And then as they're manufacturing them, they don't put a good balance between, like, I know you've had the name omega-3s, your omega-6s.
Yes.
And then it makes this food come into your body and cause inflammation. When you look at the other oils, they're saying the olive oils and some of the avocado oils,
coconut
and
oil.
coconut oil. They're least manufactured, least genetically modified. Okay, so our body is able to read that and do what it's supposed to do, and not cause inflammation when you use them. Okay. Now remember, all these things are learned. They weren't there from the beginning. All these vegetable oils and whatever. And then the other thing with the manufacturing is the population has grown. Okay, and somehow government or whoever, somebody has to feed the population. Somebody has to come with ingenious ways of feeding the population and also making money along the way. Okay, so that's why we sell the olive oils, because of the balance of your omega-3s, omega-6s, and it doesn't cause that much inflammation. Your coconut oils, all those oils that do not cause inflammation, that your body essentially reads and the chemical bond. Now we go back to the chemistry. It bonds with them and puts them out the way they're supposed to put them out.
Okay. Now,
Can we
So-
answer Nani's question? Because they say we forgot. DJ Tucha's question was, is there an argument like natural carbs versus manufactured
Oh, yes,
carbs?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, So your
Address that
natural
one.
carbs that we know, we're talking about our in our culture, the sweet potatoes, the taros, depending on where you are. Those are the natural ones that are growing from the ground, cassava, roots, vegetables that are natural. Then when we go into the manufactured carbs, we're talking about cupcakes, queen cakes.
Oh my goodness.
Where people used to eat maka the karatasi.
Wait.
Yeah,
You
but
see, you're
you are not allowed to-
traumatizing,
I
Ruth
love
over here.
baking. I love baking.
Yeah.
That karatasi is not edible.
Oh,
Uh,
I know. It's
That one?
not.
Aye?
Yeah,
No,
we're
that
asking for
wasn't
it.
meant-
Was edible.
No,
That one for
Wait.
No,
Aye.
no, it wasn't meant to be eaten. It
Boss,
just
we
for
ate
eating.
that
What
one.
karatasi?
That for
These
queen
are the
cake.
people who
Oh
used
my
to
goodness.
see cup queen cakes all the
That-
time.
that-
That's
that-
why they weren't eating them.
that
No.
As guys, we used to eat.
We ate
Yeah.
that karatasi.
That
Funny,
karatasi
it
wasn't for it was
No,
karatasi.
it was chewed. It was
Ye-
chewed.
What?
Ah, boss, we chewed and swallowed that thing.
No, you chewed and swallowed. I didn't swallow.
I know. You didn't used to chew the karatasi?
No.
Are you serious?
No, that thing was, it was not meant to be eaten.
Like,
Are you
wait,
That's
wait.
gross.
No,
Like I'm going back to when
What's
I
that queen
was.
cake? That kiki. That one that
It's
comes in that
gross.
kiki.
Yeah.
It's gross today for then.
But then,
What?
but how could you eat a queen cake and not eat the
Be like
karatasi?
karatasi.
No, you throw it away. You eat the queen cake and throw the
We
karatasi.
used to have queen cakes
Oh,
all
no,
the
no,
time.
no. Wait. Group of good schools.
Yes,
Okay, now.
yes, I
Yeah,
forgot.
I know, yeah.
I
Group of good
forgot. I
schools.
forgot.
Group
Yes,
of good
yes,
schools.
yes.
Yeah.
As we used to depend on auntie from Nairobi to bring us queen cakes. So, but that's another story.
For another
Anyway, we're talking queen
Oh, that's
cakes.
a manufactured.
Oh, that's
carbs.
those are your manufactured carbs. They're made with easy food that is cheap, so that they can be produced quickly. Many of them they're not as nutrient dense. Nowadays, when you go to buy cake, nobody's putting eggs in cake. That's expensive. Nobody's gonna buy. So those kind of things are being put out cheaply, quickly. They're manufactured. They're full of sugar, full
Oh
of
yes.
okay.
I cannot stand buying cakes from the store.
Right.
I'd rather bake them. I do bake, but pay me. Go on.
Yeah. So
Me-
that's
I retired
that's
from
the
eating
huge difference with what you're talking about of manufactured versus the natural growing from the ground up
ground up, yeah.
plants that have fiber in them. They're loaded with nutrients, and in moderation or a certain amount, then you're good. 2 mandazis at the baby shower, not 10 or 20. Then you cause
See, that-
problems.
that's the thing right there. That's the thing right there. Let's address that because I think that is where our issues start, right? Because like we love the mandazis.
You see, you should have eaten the
chapati.
paper.
But
If
the
you ate the
mandazi-
paper, you
two
wouldn't have had a
mandazis.
problem.
Have they been fried with vegetable oil for inflammation? Am I like coconut oil?
It does no matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, sawa.
Normally they take you when you think about you have a party, you're doing the mandazis. Now people stop putting eggs or butter or milk or whatever in a mandazi, the traditional authentic mandazi,
Don't worry,
right?
I'll take you people where they make them. Now.
Yeah, so we're back into just flour, water, a little bit of sugar and salt, and then
Aye.
you dip them in
Ooh.
what? Yes,
Is that-
People do
in
that?
in
Yes, yes.
commercial.
Oh, in commercial.
In
Okay.
commercial.
Oh, okay.
When you make them
Okay.
at home, you do all that.
Okay.
Then it's nutrient dense. So when you eat 1 mandazi, 2 mandazis at home, you're full. When you go to eat them in the little restaurant, you buy like 5, 10 of them because it's just flour, sugar, salt, water.
Okay. And,
That's
and,
the whole
Wow.
big difference.
and I think we have a question from Micah who is on Zoom. Micah, go ahead.
Karibu Mika.
Hello. My question is, in the world of fitness, there's usually this, and you mentioned it earlier also, that you have to have balance on what you're eating. And there's always this argument within the fitness enthusiasts of macros and calories. I just wanted you to touch on it and try to give a good, shed your light, or also pick your brain on which one would you say should people be looking into. I know most people get confused with counting macros, but there are people who will say that counting macros is what you want to do, but then there are also those who tell you that counting calories is what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
So just wanted to know what's your thought on that.
Okay. So it really depends on which thing, what you're subscribing to. Okay. But the bottom line becomes how much you're putting out in your body and how much you're expending, and whether you expend it or not, and then it gets stored. So you can count calories if you want, but your calories that you're counting, they have to be balanced. Because let's think, a bag of chips, a bag of chips is like 150 calories, a soda is another 150, so 300 calories easy, okay, of carbs, sugar, and some salt. Or you can go and get some spinach, a little bit of ugali, and nyama on the side, and end up at about 350, 400. Whole big difference, okay? That's where when you're counting calories, you have to really be able to go down to the nitty gritty of what calories are you counting. At the end of the day, they're going to add up. And if your body is not utilizing it, it doesn't get rid of it, it stores it. So now macros, big, okay? They're just counting carbohydrates, protein, your fruits and vegetables, things that we are seeing. Micros, small, nutrients, vitamins, minerals that you can't literally physically see, but they're there. Okay, so as you count, you have to be very knowledgeable on what and how you're counting, because you can reach 2,000 calories easy. A bottle of wine, few mandazis, you're good. Or a whole entire plate of warus and rice, spinach, and whatever else, and you're full. But you all ended up at 2,000 calories.
But when you're talking about rice, mchele, and wine, why are you looking at me like that? Like, are you trying to say something?
No, I'm not trying to say
checking,
anything.
just checking, just checking.
Oh, no.
She saw you last week.
So I think I like the concept of the word is not accepting of eating food and not trying to make a big deal about,
Balancing.
Yeah, this is the balancing part of food, and not making a big deal about it has to be. I mean, of course, it has to be balanced, but not. I think we lose it when we go into the calories stuff, and I cannot count the calories in ugali. I really can. I mean, I can try to have an idea of what that is.
There are many. There are mob.
I know, but I'm trying to say is if I have a balance, there are what portion is what I want us to talk about.
Oh yeah, portions. Oh yes.
Because that's where sometimes I think we lose it. Because I want to have a balanced meal, but then after, as you said, I cannot count the calories in plantain. I mean, like I can, but that's too much work.
Yeah, and you shouldn't,
Okay.
because it's a dish that is going to be high calorie because it's cut, it's fried. Okay, so if you're counting calories in that, then you don't eat anything. That's easily that little bowl, 400 right there. So you shouldn't eat anything with your with your plantains. You should. So we shouldn't, unless you really know what you're doing when it comes to counting calories, 1, 2, 3, and adding them up. You really shouldn't get hung up about it. But is there a place for calorie counting? Yes, because then if you're aware of what you're putting in and how much is in what, then you're able to moderate it. So if you're following a diet that says 1,200 calories and you see, oh, I have 300 more to go for the day, you really shouldn't go out of your way to feel so that you're at 1,500. Sometimes we don't eat the same in every day. And then now this one, if once you're a woman and you start hitting those 30s, 40s, your calorie intake or whatever you're putting in, the portions need to start getting smaller. And if you're not especially if you're not exercising, and I'm not saying like walking to the mailbox or to the traffic, no, that doesn't count.
Or to get the remote.
Or to get the remote, like no, that doesn't count. We're talking about actually engaging in something like a 30-minute walk around in your neighborhood,
like a 5-mile walk.
Yeah, as you get older, you start gaining weight, you start putting your hormones out of balance. And then your body starts reading the entire thing you're putting in it wrong, and then you start gaining weight. And it is, if you've ever tried to lose weight, you know how hard it is to lose weight.
But like when we're having a conversation, like before the show, during the week, you mentioned something like listening to your body. Now, there's something that we Muslims do every year for 30 days, which is called fasting. Which we haven't touched on because I know time is running out a little bit. We fast for 30 days in a year, which is from dusk to dawn. in the US, depending on what season it is, it could be from as early as 4 a.m. all the way to 8:30 p.m. And we do that for 30 days in a year. And one thing that I'll tell you that I get to learn from my body after fasting for 30 days is that the daily food that we normally eat, we're eating in excess. Because people tend to think that we eat a lot when we break the fast, but if you've ever fasted, when it comes for that time to eat, your digestive system actually kind of shrinks. So sometimes when people see a lot of those foods displayed, they think there's very little that you can eat out of what's placed there. So essentially, you're eating no more than a third of what you normally eat every day. And no one has ever died from fasting. We start training our kids to fast from age 7. By the time a kid is 10 years old, they're supposed to be fasting, like a full day. Because by the time, like they're 12, 13, they should just be fasting like an adult. And that's why it's easier when people are grown up. But I hear about this something called intermittent fasting, which
that is where I wanted to go and ask. But
which I don't quite know. I'll tell you for a fact. Myself, like after Ramadan, I typically lose very easily 7-8 pounds. Very easily every year.
Ali, it's more than that, based upon what we see.
Yes, very.
Ouch.
Very, very easily, and of course, unfortunately, like it's regained very swiftly. But I can tell, like if that's a habit, if that's a habit that I could sustain through the year in terms of the quantities and even just how your body feels, like after doing it, is something that I would do. But I want you to talk a bit about intermittent fasting.
And in addition to that, that there's the intermittent fasting, and there's also that, okay, don't eat after 7 or don't eat after 10 or at a certain
4
point in
hours
time
before you go to bed
or something. Those are the things. Pablo over here, I think you're telling somebody told him that he needs to tell his fridge to shut up because it just, and that's another thing, because we don't. There are these times you're told, okay, don't eat after 7, don't eat.
Yeah.
The next meal.
In whose house?
All right.
Okay, so
let's talk about our bodies and what we. You're right. That's why you're able to just get into the fast, because one, our bodies know what we need. If we would actually listen to them and not eat because it's 12 o'clock, but eat because we're hungry, then we'd find ourselves actually eating less and less. Now, if you've ever been around a child that is not eating and they tell you then you go, you call the doctor, you read books, you do all sorts of things, and they tell you, leave them alone. They know when they're hungry, they will eat. Now, they might want to eat at 11 o'clock and you're trying to sleep, but their bodies know, and so do our bodies. When you don't eat, you feel you're hungry and you need to stop and you need to go and eat. That's why when it's time to fast, from a religious perspective, your body just knows, okay, we're not eating, we'll eat at a certain time, and quickly adjusts into when you will be feeding it. Now, if you probably are used to, you've been eating a lot of food and all of a sudden you get into fast mode, then your body's used to having all that and working with it, and suddenly it's not there. You're going to know, because you start feeling, ooh, I can't. I need to drink or eat something more than just a cup of water or, a cup of tea.
And it's interesting, like growing up, like I've personally really reconnected with my spirituality as a grown up. Eat when you're hungry. That's an Islamic teaching. It's very interesting that I'm hearing it now from a dietitian, but that's an Islamic teaching that we've been taught from when we were small. Remember when we had this presidential candidate, Dida? He was talking about those things. He wasn't saying those are Islamic teachings, but he was bringing about Islamic teachings, whereby you're told a meal, you have to divide your digestive system into 3 portions. So kama ni chapo tatu ndo zinakushibisha, you're supposed to eat only 1.
Yeah.
So 1 portion should be for food, 1 portion for water, and 1 portion for air. So you're supposed to kind of like divide your digestive system into 3. And that's the religious teaching that we've been brought up with. So a lot of times when we were young, and then tunasema atujashiba, a lot of kids growing up in Muslim families watakwambia unaambiwa kunywa maji. You know, like anytime unaenda, oh mama sijashiba, you'll be given what? Watambua kunywa maji na umshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu. So I think those are some teachings that I think which we never used to take seriously, but actually come in handy, and it's very interesting now
Right.
actually hearing it from
And
a
remember, when
dietitian.
we were growing up, we would get a heap, and you're young, you get a heap of food, and the thinner you are, the more food you got. Eat, so you get. It's like we try to sell eating a lot of food, and then as you're eating, your stomach physically is expanding, and then when you put food in there, it sends you the signals. Sijashiba.
That was not Kwashiako. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
But in reality, the food that you've put in is enough for all the body functions and to sustain you, to help you grow, to mix up in there and keep you healthy and well without overeating. Because when you overeat, it doesn't know what to do but store it. Those fat cells are usually there waiting. They're just
Okay.
hanging out, waiting for the fat to come by, and they say, yeah, here, come, have a seat right here around my belly area. And if you are trying to lose weight around your belly area, it is
Or
not happening.
as
ahead.
the movie with Mike Myers. What's his name? Goldfinger. Mike Myers.
What the Austin?
Get in my Austin Powers. Get
Yeah.
in my belly. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Imepita watu wengi.
Yeah, miss him to us,
yeah,
Nema.
that's
Yeah, miss him to us, Nema.
There's something you said about a lot of us cannot take dairy. You said this a while ago. Talk about that, because I just recently gave up milk, and that's because I could not reconcile some things that were happening to my body, and once I did, like I'm feeling much better, and I'm not lactose intolerant or anything, but it's something I've had people say as we grow older, milk is really not something we should be taking. Is there truth to that? Is there a myth?
And then when you go to Kenya, you able to drink the real
Did you-
tea with milk, and you're
Did you try
fine.
the organic milk?
And you try
Yeah.
Grass-fed milk.
grass-fed
yeah.
milk,
Grass-fed?
grass-fed
Okay.
grass. Because one, there's a part of your question I don't want to miss it. So there's one part of it, over processing. It changes the chemical.
Okay.
Let's go back to chemistry 101, and your body does not recognize it. Now, there's also the other part that really milk is, there's the enzyme that we're using to digest whatever is in the milk, that as you age, diminishes. And that is
Okay.
why when you take, you're good one day, or you are fine as a kid, and then as you become an adult, you just cannot digest it because you don't have the enzymes that are supposed to be able to help you digest the protein in the milk, and that becomes, the problem. There's something else you said about milk and why whether it's organic and why you just have to get away from it.
The question was, is there truth to that, which I think you just answered. Is that truth to as we grow older, we don't digest milk well, and I think for me it's just like, I'm just gonna say this, in a span of a month, I put on so much weight, and the only thing that that was different in my diet was the milk. I was taking 2 cups of tea a day, which too much. But then I stopped taking it, and by the way, my skin started to clear, and I started feeling much better about it. And I was wondering what is in this milk. That
It's over again. Remember where I said we have to make food? The government has to make sure that we're manufacturing enough food to feed the population.
this is crazy.
And then food is made, the science and whatever is put into the manufacture of food, milk processing, storage, making it last longer in the fridge, blah, blah, blah. And in that process, it changes the whole chemical nature of the milk. And remember what we said, that your genes and your genetics are not changing even one, they're probably changing 5 generations a little bit. They're not changing right away.
Does
and
this
that
also include almond milk?
almond milk,
Yeah, someone is asking about almond milk.
The tree.
The look on
Someone
her
is
face.
asking, yeah.
The look on her face tells it
Okay.
all.
So almond milk becomes an alternative to dairy. And then this milk has to be processed.
So it's still processed.
Yeah. Oh, and then and you're using it as an alternative to dairy. When you read that package at the back for the nutrients, there's really nothing
Nothing.
in there.
Yeah.
But if you're using it for your cereal, for your oatmeal, and it feeds those receptors in your brains and it makes you happy and feel good, then so be it. If you're looking at it honestly from a nutrition perspective, unless it's fortified and you can see it has been added, calcium been added, vitamin D been added, protein, then it's good for you. It really is just something on the side that you're using and spending money on.
Yeah, and Tucha says with weight loss
That's
journey, you have to
painful.
know your body and listen to it. You have to learn what's making you gain weight. Now, we have to wrap this up. This
Yes.
is a very good conversation.
This is
but
part one.
Yeah, this is part
She's
one.
coming back.
She's coming back.
Swali moja tu.
Yeah.
Sasa she's given us all these things. The one thing I didn't hear is exercise.
Okay. So you have our bodies, the bottom line, your body is made to move. Okay? And the more you don't move it, the worse it gets. All right? And then your back hurts, your knees hurt. Think of it like this. If I gave you a 10-pound whatever to hang on your, let's even think about when you carry a baby on your back, or if you grew up in the days of whatever, what are those things called? The ones you put the kid in and you carry them at the front?
Kangaroo thingies.
Whatever.
Kikoi. I don't know.
That
Lesso.
Kashuria, whatever.
I
Kashuria.
love
Yes.
your
So
generation
she's
of lesson. Well, that baby carrier.
Yeah.
Someone
whatever.
with babies,
That
please tell us.
When you're carrying that baby, you can feel that 7 pounds being something, but it's not hurting you because it's your child or it's your niece or nephew and whatever. But now put that in perspective. Take that 10 pounds and put it on your back. Take that 10 pounds and wrap it on your knee, on the outside. You're going to feel it, right? Now, when you're carrying what is, and I hate to really call it weight, the bottom line is anybody that needs to lose weight knows. We all know.
Yeah.
You don't need anybody in this
To tell
world telling you lose weight, gain weight, do this with no. We all know.
Musiniangalie. Carry on.
We all know, okay? But know that weight is hurting your back, it's hurting your knees, and the more you don't get it off, the more you hurt. So when you finally decide, I am going to exercise, I am going to start walking around the neighborhood, you walk one day and your knee hurts. And you say, oh, I started walking and my knee hurt. And then you stop. But in reality, you should just either back down, walk a little bit slower. Instead of doing it 30 minutes, maybe just start with 10. The bottom line, your body is made to move and you should move it. The minute you stop moving it, it knows and it acts exactly like that, not being moved.
And you know,
Wow.
and you know that's during this COVID period, I think because a lot of people were working from home, so even the little movement that people used to make was
Commuting to
significantly
work.
reduced.
Yeah.
So you find that people had started getting, like some ailment, like some back problems and other issues that they did not have before because of lack of movement. Your movement was between your bedroom to the fridge to your workstation,
Right.
And you are rotating on your own axis.
And even
between
remember
those
in the
three.
initial days, people are even afraid of being outside.
Yeah.
We didn't
Leaving
even
the
go
house,
outside.
yeah.
And once you
We were told not to go.
We're told
yeah,
not to go
we are
outside.
told not to
yes.
go outside.
But what about activity in the bedroom?
Activity in the bedroom. That is good for your soul.
Hallelujah.
It's good for your soul.
Yeah.
Your body is
Commercial too.
made. It's your body is
made to
made to react like that.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what or how you get there. The point is to get there because your
Increase
body
that activity.
Yeah.
your body is made for that.
But you see, on matters movement, when the lockdown started, of course, we're all in the house, and after a couple of months, I started noticing some differences, like in my body, in the way my back felt and everything, and it all changed when I started walking, because a time came when now people were allowed to go outside
Right, yeah.
and be careful, and I started doing, this 5, maybe 10 miles a week, and it takes a very short time for your body to start feeling different.
Right.
So I think that's another aspect that I think
Right.
a lot of
And
people need
to
know.
answer you, we should make time for our exercising or physical activity, wherever you're going to decide that you want to do it, either at home or in the gym or wherever, somewhere in between there.
On your bed.
If that's what makes you get there, then so be it. But we should always make time for it, because all these other things, when I always say make time for your health now while you can, because when you are unwell and you have to go to the doctor, you're going to have to call out work. You're going to have to leave those children at home and go to the doctor or be hospitalized, have surgery, do this, spend money, trying now to take care of your health when you don't have an option. When you have an option or a choice, do it then. The other thing with our community and the diaspora community, we don't want to spend money for ourselves when we are well. Okay? You don't want to come and see me, the dietitian, and pay $20, $30, $60. Now, when you're well, I could just give you one little nugget that will make a whole difference in the rest of your life.
And not a chicken nugget, but a nugget.
Yeah.
A good nugget.
Yeah. And we shouldn't be afraid to spend money on ourselves in our well days, because if you know anything about insurance in this country, especially commercial insurance, you're going to be spending money.
And as you're saying that, I want you to wrap this up for us by telling people how they can reach you and maybe what services you have to offer, for people who are struggling and for people maybe who want to get started on this journey.
Because a friend of mine once said, Maganda, let me give him a shout out. It says, health is wealth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is. So you can reach me on my website, nourishingnutritionals with an S.com. There's a contact us. Or Dear Lovely Facebook. I do have my own webpage, and it's at Curbside RDN. You can message and reach there. Now, there's what we call a 15-minute consult. Listen to your story and say, okay, I think I can help you. Then be willing to open your wallet. What do they say?
Kakitu.
Yeah.
Kakitu.
Because
M-Pesa.
free.
Yeah.
At the end of it all, it ends up not being free.
So we can't work with a kaploti.
Yeah?
We can't
Oh
work
my
with a
goodness.
kaploti.
Ako kaploti, you don't take care of your diabetes, your hypertension, your cardiovascular disease. Ako kaploti, you leave it in this earth, and you leave people killing themselves over your kaploti.
Kaploti.
Because in our culture, we don't even write our wills down. We just buy to ploties and nobody knows
That's
about
a story
them.
for another day.
And that is a story for another
Wacha
whole
kuzusha.
day.
Ali told me where he's at, so I think
You see, you try that. You'll know that you don't know.
You'll know that you don't know.
Utajua ujui.
Let me just clarify. Just want more information. This 15-minute consultation, is that paid or not paid?
There's a 15-minute that is unpaid.
Okay.
You call me, you say, Anita, I went to my doctor. They say we did some blood work with my diabetes. The doctor says I am diabetic, or the doctor says I am pre-diabetic. I would like, what do I do? Then you tell me, this is what I do, this is what I don't do. Or you come with something and I'm like, I've never heard of that. I don't think I can help you. Go to this person, give them your story. I think they will be able to help you better.
Okay.
But then that's 15 minutes of, giving your story, and then we decide, okay, I can help you. And then we move on to the stage where you can be helped.
Yeah.
Now, in this day and age, I'm going to ask you, get into a portal like you do when you go to see your doctors at Hopkins and all that. Fill out your information, because I'm a professional. That's what I am trained to do. Read your information, put it in my brain, blah, 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 and then put it out so that you get helped while you can, not when you're being forced to, when you're making the choice. And some people, most people who have ailments know they need to lose weight. They already just know mostly what they need to do. They probably just need a little bit of help, one session, and that one session will move them from where they are to the next level so that they can accomplish what they need to accomplish.
Are those covered by insurance? Do you take insurance?
Okay. So I do take insurance. I do take the regular ones we have here in Maryland, Cigna, CareFast, Medicare, some
Kaiser.
of you, some
Kaiser.
of Kaiser. No, I'm not credentialed with Kaiser. They have their own
Blue Cross?
Yeah, they have their own.
dietitians, medical assistants, and some of their HMOs, American Group Priority Partners. So they'll see that. But in most cases, if you have the commercial ones, they're gonna say your deductible. If you haven't met your deductible, then you can't. But you have to think about it long term, as a long term investment, and be willing to pay upfront for one consultation. You can use if you're having your flex benefit card, you can actually, because we're licensed and credentialed, you can actually use it to pay for your services. It's one thing we didn't talk about, and I'll just mention it really quickly: supplementation. Now you can go. There's a time. I'm just gonna put it simply. There's a time and place for supplements, all your vitamins and minerals and everything. And sometimes you're nutrient deficient, you don't know that you are, and one little vitamin is what is going to help you. Now, you can't go picking vitamins and supplements randomly. You need to go with someone, even in the absence of blood work. So somebody like me will hear the story, and I'll be able to point you in the right direction so that you buy and obtain supplements that are worth your money, because you don't want to waste your money on something that
This is expensive.
GNLD.
that is expensive, that has no nutrients in it anyway, and you're thinking that it's helping you, because the supplement industry is almost like a $9 billion
Yep.
industry.
They're advertising everywhere.
They're advertising everywhere, and if you pick the wrong one, you can get yourself nutrient deficient, toxic, and sicker than when you first started.
So are you saying that one a day that they advertise sijui nini ukishafika kaufinje or kau 45
Kula hii and you'll
kula
be-
hii
you'll
every
be
day
active,
and
you'll
you're
feel
good
nice.
for the rest of your life, you'll be a
nice.
young man, you'll be jumping
And you'll be able to do what you're supposed to do.
kitandani.
No,
Yes.
it's a combination. If you're not
Oh.
deficient, there's no need. And sometimes deficiency comes in phases, depending on what's going on in your life. Some of your medications are nutrient depleting. And so you will end up deficient, and then you don't know why you are struggling with your issue. And then you supplement a little bit, it gets you back where you need to be. And then you can come off even your medication. So that one a day blindly, no. You have to know and be able to balance it. You probably don't even need it.
Okay. Now,
Wow.
with that said, this is it for the News and Politics Hour. Thank you so much, Anita, for your time tonight. But we want you to stay tuned because Anita is going to be staying with us. Una, I want you to quickly remind viewers what we're going to be discussing in the social segment.
We are going to be discussing the Boda Boda menace, or the whatever transpired between a motorist and a Boda Boda persons and the alleged crackdown. But I think we'll go deeper and delve into what's up.
Yeah, and then just let Micah in real quick. I want him to tell us about sports, which is going to be coming up. I want to know real quick what we're going to be talking about in the sports segment. Micah, sijui kama unatusikia. Micah going once.
He's there.
He's there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yuko too.
Okay, all right. Kama Micah tuski, then I think... yes, I was just asking, what are we going to be talking about in the sports segment?
So today in the sports segment, I think we have like two stories. We're going to be covering. We start back home in Kenya, whereby the government today passed a law whereby any company that sponsors any sports activities is not going to be paying taxes. They be spared from paying levies. So we'll discuss how that is good for sports and how it might help the growth of sports. And also we're going to discuss about the turmoil that are facing Chelsea football team as a property of one of the oligarchs of Russia.
Okay, asante sana Mika. We want you to keep it locked and stay tuned. And please remember to share our live stream. We're running a little bit back today. We had a glitch pale mwanzo, but the show must go on. And remember, subscribe, follow us on all our social media handles, and keep spreading the word. Mimi ni mtangazaji wenu Ali Badawy, aka Mjukuu wa Masai, and you're still tuned in to the One Mic Show.
DJ Machachari Boda Boss kadhe, and this time
We're going to be back shortly.
shortly.
Yeah.
We Omosh, usituweke kwa maji
No
moto.
more than 5 minutes.
Yes.
Terrio Monster.
Umenitosha tosha, mama umeniburuza buruza, kina umenitosa tosa, sarafu umeigeuza geuza, sijui nikupe zawadi gani ama nikuletege kidani, hapa wametupa jiwe gizani, Mungu atuepushie shetani. Penzi langu nilitetee, isiwe gundu linipote, hani umebeba roho yangu, hata kama nikifa tuzikwe wote. Bebe nipe soma, sweetie te amo, oh baby give me some more, yaliyo moyamo, tuwafunge midomo, tuzidishe kipimo, uondo mtazamo, tuyazibe mashimo, bado ubani wa ndoa, tunasubiri ndoa, yeah. chakula hakuna, na si heka ya kuna muda natamani kurudi kwetu.